YouTube, what's up? It has been a while. I've had a lot on my mind, a lot I've been doing. But last night, I was putting some clothes in the laundry and I thought about something. I looked at where I was and I said to myself, this might be the final resting place for other people, but this is not where my story ends. You know, there's a scene at the page at the very end of Superman Beyond in the DC's Final Crisis storyline. The last page of that story is Superman's grave and the words he had inscribed on it. The inscription on that grave simply said, "To be continued." You know, and I woke up this morning, I had a really good feeling about my day. Um, Not so much the day, but the year. I just know that 2026 is going to be the year that I achieve my goals. I got a really good conviction. I feel very confident about this year, 2026. Not because it's a new year, but because I've been setting up the steps to get my goals where I want them to be. Um, yeah, so I feel really good about where 2026 is headed, the partnerships I made in 2025, and how they're rolling out. I feel good about that. So today's video, let me talk to you about a topic that came to mind a couple days ago. And I've had example after example come to me. And you know, when I tell stories, I like to give examples in lieu of when I don't have anything like something I can hold up. Like anything, a book. You can see my bookcase behind me. Or like I don't know, a toy or something. Or action figure. Or anything. Anything in lieu of a visual aid. I like to give examples so people really understand. And the points that I'm trying to drive home. And today's video is about a very simple idea, which is why asking questions can help. Let me see what I actually called this video. I think I wrote down why asking questions can benefit you. We'll change it later on, but I have 8 or 9 examples, maybe 10. So let's run through those real quick. I want to keep this video under 15 minutes. We're already over 2 minutes. So the first example I have for you is I went to go pump my gas at the gas station. I think it was yesterday. And there was a guy there. He was in need. He walked up to me. He was like, hey, can you help me out with some money? Can I get $4? And I don't carry cash. So I told him, sorry, brother, I don't have any money. What I meant was I don't have any dollar bills I can give you. If I actually had it, would I give it to him? That's a different story. But, I didn't have any way to get the cash to give it to him at that moment. So I said, sorry. I was polite, but, I still was firm. There was no need to be aggressive. Unlike the second guy that he asked, who was on the other side of the gas pump. And that guy was a slightly older guy, bigger, somewhat bigger vehicle. And that guy was just real boisterous. He was just talking to the guy who was like, don't come any closer. He's like, I told you that's close enough. Just being really aggressive to this guy who wasn't really doing anything except asking for money, which is not harmful. It's not aggressive. It's not even offensive. Honestly, it's just a request. But I really felt as though that was just a black guy doing what a lot of black people do, which is being a dick for no reason to someone else and abusing someone just because they had the ability to. And as a member of the black community, as a black person, I see that a lot. I hate it, but this is how something that, a lot of black people do. Not all, but a lot of black people do. All right. So the third person he asked was actually somebody who pulled up after me and their car was behind me. And it sounded like that guy was going to be a dick to the guy who was asking for money as well. Because the guy came and asked, the guy who was asking for money asked all three of us the same question. Hey, can I have $4? So the guy behind me was like, hey, man, why don't you pull your pants up? It's cold out here. I know you got to be cold. So in my head, I'm like, oh, man, is this going in like some kind of sus gay direction. Like, is this dude about to be like, I'll give you $4, just get in the car? Like, I don't know where it's going, you know? I don't want to be a part of it, but I also don't want nothing bad to happen to this guy who clearly seems to be in need. It's a cold afternoon. He's asking for money, you know, wouldn't be asking for money unless he needed it. Eventually, the guy who was parked behind me says, "All right, I'll give you $4 to pull your pants up. Take care of yourself, black man." And hands him the money. So I was just getting in my car at that time. I done pumping my gas, and I was just getting to my car at this time. When that happened. So I was happy to see that the story had a happy ending. But again, here was somebody who wanted help, maybe needed help. He asked for help, and after a series of no's, he eventually got a yes. Again, that's one example of why asking questions can help you. Now, you know, that's more along the lines of begging. It's not really a practical example. So people might be listening to this and be like, I'm not impressed. That doesn't really sell me. What else you got? Well, I got 8 or 9 other examples. So listen up. I wrote them down because my mind runs 100 miles an hour and I try to, I want to keep track of everything I say, right? All right, here we go. So here's a wild one. 2025. Last year, as of, I'm just checking my camera. Yeah, so 2025. I actually started working with this company in 2024, January. So about a year ago, I started working with them. I'll never forget. I got the advertising, the solicitation in the mail, and I was looking at it and I'm like, do I really want to contact these people? Maybe this is a scam? I don't know. But money was really good in 2024, So I was like, I said last year, but I meant 2024. Money was really good in 2024. So I was like, all right, let me see where this goes. Let me see if these people can help me. Because as of 2024, I had like a $30,000 IRS federal tax debt, and I've been paying like $500, a month to pay it off. But the problem was I didn't have $500 every month to put to it consistently. So like maybe a month or two I'd skip, then put the $500 up, the most I actually had it. And if you do the math, $500 a month times 12 months times 4 years is $24,000, right? So $24,000 is close to $30,000, but it's off by $6,000, right? So it's kind of like if I stayed consistent, I probably could have paid off, that debt. But the thing I think you guys are forgetting is the interest and the penalties. So every time I would put the 500 up, every year I would find myself still being in a hole, still being in debt. And it was very difficult to dig myself out of it. That's why in 2024, I was like, all right, let me see about going in a different direction. Let me see if these people can help me out. And lo and behold, I paid Nationwide Tax Care like $4,000 some dollars. I had been getting these letters in the mail nonstop from the IRS with the red letter on it, saying like, hey, you owe this, we're going to garnish your wages, this and that. I started working with Nationwide Tax Care. The letters went away. I stopped getting the letters in the mail. And as of, I think, August or September 2024, they emailed me, Nationwide Tax Care emailed me and said, we were able to successfully get your $30,000 that you owed the IRS placed into a non-collectible status. Non-collectible essentially means that the balance is forgiven because the IRS is not going to come after it. They're not going to be able to come after it. So, boom, $30,000 in federal taxes forgiven. Why? Because I was willing to take that step and ask for help. Now, that's a very practical, real-world example. I'm very proud of that. But, of course, the goal is to make sure that moving forward, I'm more like smart with how I go about, handling my taxes, writing off deductions, and, of course, paying, what I can when I can before the, clock runs out. Because there's a clock on, once you get your tax bill, even if it's once a year, you have like until the middle of the year to pay. And then they'll hit you with like taxes and penalties if you don't pay by the 6th or 7th month of the year. That's what I've noticed, over a period of time. All right, so that's a real world example. 2 examples of why asking questions can benefit you. Let's go to number 3. My student loans. Listen, going to college was one of the worst mistakes I ever made. And again, this is what happens when people listen to the older generation giving advice, not all the time, but sometimes. The older generation who may not have their best interest, the younger generation's best interest at heart, and can't illustrate to the younger generation how taking certain steps can benefit the younger generation. Me, if somebody was to say, like, hey, and we'll get into this at the end of the video, if I buy your book and I do what you did and I pursue the career path that you did, how could it benefit me? Show me, show me recent direct deposits of what you've made in your bank account. Show me previous payments that you've gotten over the years from, doing the job you do. Make me believe that what you do is worth it. And I can do that. Lickety split today, right now, at the drop of a dime. That's not something that can be done with someone taking the advice that I took way back in like 2002, 2003, which was, oh, go to college. Now, initially, I was trying to get into the military. Maybe that had worked out for the best. Maybe it wouldn't. There was a guy who I was in the shelter with when I was trying to get into the military. He actually pursued the same career path that I was going for in the military. And his truck, as a military police officer, ran over an IED and killed everyone inside. An IED is an improvised explosive device, right? This was when he was in the Army, and that was what I was going for as well. So I was not able to make it to the military, but maybe it was for the best, because here I am today. I'm alive. I have a family. I have a son, biological, my other sons as well. I have a wonderful wife. I have a home. I have goals, and I'm able to come and give my life wisdom to you, right? So, but yeah, anyways, when you take the advice of other people, like going to college, it wasn't necessarily going to pan out for me in a way that nobody could show me like how going to college would immediately pay off within a couple months, or even within a year's time frame. I can easily show someone that. I've helped people get into my industry. I did it yesterday. I did a couple like not even 4 weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago. I just do it because that's who I am. I'm a teacher. I'm a leader. But yeah, moving on. College was the worst mistake I ever made. Because I have a degree that's somewhere, probably sitting in my room somewhere, and I don't use it. It doesn't benefit me in any way. All it did was cause me to incur debt. And the thing about student loans is, when you get these student loans, traditionally they're not dischargeable, unless under certain conditions. And I didn't meet those conditions until I learned back in 2023 that, I think it was either 2023 or 2024 that the university I went to, University of Phoenix, successfully was sued for $170 million because they falsely advertised that they would connect students with major employers, and all the students had to do was graduate from their college. It was a promise the University of Phoenix made that they could not keep, and that's why they got successfully sued for it. But I didn't find out about this lawsuit and the payout until well after the funds ran out. The funds ran out back in like 2016, 2017, maybe 2018, something like that. But I didn't find out about this until like 2023, something like that. So I started working with the student loan doctor. Look up the owner. Her name is Sonia Lewis. I saw her on Earn Your Leisure, the YouTube channel. Dr. Sonia Lewis out of Philadelphia. I started working with her company, the student loan doctor. We submitted an application for student loan forgiveness, and it has a 3-year window for forgiveness. So in other words, I have to allow 3 years to go by after I submitted the application, which I turned in March 2024. So I have to allow until March 2027 to see if, the Department of Education forgives my loans, right? Based on the criteria I've submitted, based on the fact that I attended a school where I was promised results that the school could not provide. So because I was promised something under false advertising, they absolutely should forgive my loan. And so that's what I'm going for at this time, to get my loans forgiven. But listen, what if I didn't know about this? What if I didn't know that, there was a company out there that could possibly help me with my student loans? Because listen, I was one of those people that was getting those letters and emails like, hey, you owe your student loans, your forbearance period has ended. You owe us $800, $1,000 some dollars a month, And the thing about student loans is, listen, like the IRS, the debt is not dischargeable. I mean, with the IRS, the debt is not just, well, the debt is dischargeable, as you can see, if you get help, right? That's the hack that a lot of people don't know about. But um, yeah, I mean, most times student loans are not dischargeable. And of course, they accrue late fees and interest for non payment. So initially, my like student loan balance was like, I think 38,000, 40,000. I left college way back in like, I don't even know, 2012, something like that, 2012, 2013. That was 12 years ago. And in 12 years, I've accumulated $20,000 in student loan debt just off the interest and non-payment. It has nothing to do with what I borrowed. So, of course, I submitted that application. I'm awaiting the results, but in the meantime, I don't have to make any payments. In the meantime, sure, interest may be accruing, but it's accruing at a slow pace. And I don't have to worry about, you know, making these payments at this time. I can put my money to other things. I can invest my money. So worst case scenario, if my application is denied or whatever, for whatever reason, and the student loan doctor is not able to help me get around that, I have $20,000, $30,000 sitting in the stock market. I can pull that out, make a payment, do that again, boom, debt is paid off, right? So again, that's another example of why asking questions can help. I gave you all the plug. I told you who it is. Dr. Sonia Lewis. She was on Earn Your Leisure, the YouTube channel's platform a couple of years ago. That's how I found out about her. You can look at the student loan doctor out of Philadelphia, and they should be able to help you out, right? So example number 3. This one was the one that really got me wanting to start this video, right? We got a new car, a new vehicle, family ride in October 2025, last year, right? And it was a crazy couple of months. Like the last quarter of the year was not even quarter. Like last quarter of the year was tough, because a lot happened. Like I had my wedding anniversary, my wife and I, we went away, had a blast at Bethany Beach. It was the best, right? But during the vacation, first of all, right before we went away, I had like a week where I was trying to get a vehicle, a week with no car. And as somebody who drives, half of what I do for work for a living is driving. That was really tough. So I had to find a vehicle in a week. The first vehicle we were going for, somebody bought that vehicle literally like an hour or two before I got there. Walked in, bought it. I got there, and I found out it was no longer available. The retailer no longer had comparable vehicles. I was devastated. I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. 2 days later, we got a vehicle. Boom, we were set. And I still had to come up with the money for us to eat on our anniversary, like $600, $700, $800. It wasn't a great year, 2025. It wasn't the most profitable year, but we made it happen. I found the money. We went on vacation, had a good time. But on vacation, my phone gets wet and stops working. So I went like a week and a half without a phone. I need my phone for work, to communicate with anybody, to see the work I'm getting, to, whatever, turn work in. It was tough, and so November was spent catching up on all the stuff that I missed out in October. In November, I was driving all around in this new vehicle, and I was very, very busy. Our old car was parked at AAA, and I never went to go get the transponder for EasyPass from the old vehicle, right? And then early December 2025, I go get a new transponder, put it in the new vehicle, but money was really tight. Like I didn't have the money to go and like add to my EasyPass account to like the end of last month, right? Right now, I got like $200 some sitting in my EasyPass account. But listen, for most of December, I just didn't have it, right? I didn't have the money like that. So, I kept getting these letters in the mail, these tickets saying like, oh, you owe this money, you owe this money. And the thing with EasyPass is, here's the thing, here's how they get you. Your regular toll might be 85 cents. It may be $2. It might be $5, $8. Worst case scenario, $10, right? Because EasyPass is going to be going crazy with the hikes lately. But the thing is, if you don't pay the toll, if you don't pay the basic toll amount, they will send you a letter in the mail demanding the toll amount plus a fee. A lot of you not. I had a couple of charges from EasyPass. It was like 85 cents, $1.65 for the toll. But the charge for not paying it at the time and not having a transponder, just going through the EasyPass booth without paying, It's like $25, $30, $50 for a lot of them. So I called Easy Pass yesterday. I'm like, all right, I probably owe maybe like $500, $300, you know, with the toll not being paid, with the fees and the regular amount I owe. I'm like, all right, I probably owe that amount. I call them, they're like, yeah, you owe us $3,080. In my head, I'm like, ain't no way I'm gonna be able to pay that kind of money. I don't have $3,000 sitting around. But this isn't my first rodeo with Easy Pass. You understand? I didn't talk to them before, and every time I talked to them and asked them to waive the fees, they always did it. So I was like, yo, if I pay you guys what I actually owe you, what do I owe you, and will you waive the fees? They were like, well, with the fees it's 3,000 some dollars, but if you if you pay us now everything you owe, it'll only be $380. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, so y'all literally 10x what people owe you just for going through the toll booth. What about the people that don't know that they can just ask the fees to be waived and you'll waive them for them? How much money y'all making? Y'all making a killing out here off of ignorance. Like, I understand, it's your toll booth, it's your company, y'all run the show, but what about the people that don't know this stuff? That don't know that if they just call and ask the fees to be waived, it can be waived. A lot of people, they don't know. They don't ask the question. And that's why I made this video called How Asking Questions Can Benefit You. If you just ask, you never know what the outcome could be. We're already at 21 minutes. Let's move on. All right, so this is a good one. This is going to be two examples of one. When my wife and I moved here, it was $1,500 a month, right? It wasn't actually $1,500. It was like $1,600, $1,650 or something, like $1,600, something like that. But the property manager was cooler than the other side of the pillar. The new one we got, she's great too. She's just really sweet. But the other one, she was just cooler than the other side of the pillar. Both of them were real cool. I got no issue with either one of them. And I was standing next to my wife. I'll never forget. And the property manager was like, yeah, this is $1,600 a month. My wife was like, she didn't hesitate at all. She's like, can you do $1,500? The property manager thought for half a second. And then she was like, yeah, I can do $1,500, no problem. There you go. The rent would have been $1,600 some dollars a month. But because my wife was like, she was like, in her eyes, she's like, I love my husband. My goal is to help us save money. How do we save money? By reducing our expenses. Let me ask the question. Worst thing somebody could say is no. The answer was yes. So our lease was set to renew. It is set to renew. But this was a couple months ago. And listen, the rent went from like $1,500 to $1,680 to like $1,840. And this is only going to be our third year here. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, y'all done jumped the rent a whole bunch of times. And now like for our third year here, they were trying to put it up to $1,920 a month. And I responded. I was like, hey, can y'all consider like $1,900? Cap it out at $1,900. I mean, $1,920. That's a lot. You know what I'm saying? In my head, they don't need to know this, but in my head, I'm like, I'm trying to transition us from graduating from this to a house. That's the goal. That's some of the goals I was talking about at the beginning of the video that we're working on. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's gonna be harder to do that, shelling out more and more money for the same amount of space that I had last year. But the people with the money make the rules, right? People who own the property make the rules. That's why you want to become a property owner or the owner of something, and not just somebody who borrows it, because you have less rights, you have less power as somebody who rents something. Like I tell my teenage son, the people with the money make the rules. I'll probably make another video called that in the future. But long story told short, they reduced it. To my surprise, they didn't just reduce it down to $1,900. They dropped it to like $1,878. So I was paying like $1,838 for the last year. This is the last month I'll be paying $1,838, and they bumped it up to like $1,878 or something like that. So that goes to show you, like, y'all don't have to be making these astronomical rental increases. You just choose to. And sometimes the difference between what you pay and what you want to pay is how much pushback you get. A closed mouth may never get fed. Again, asking questions absolutely make a difference. So let me give y'all example number 5. This is a big one. Back in 2021, I traveled all the way to California. First time in California. I went for my birthday, it was a 2-day mastermind. I had been following these two Instagrammers. Both of them are millionaires, black millionaires. I attended a 2-day mastermind. A lot of people for their birthday, they go out, they turn up, they spend little money, they drink, they smoke, whatever, they party. Me, I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn so that I could acquire power. And that power could come in the form of money or knowledge. Knowledge that I could turn into money and therefore have more power, right? Because the people with the money, like I said, have the power. So I learned a lot. And while I was there, I didn't go over there with the intention of making a partnership. But I was writing my book at the time, and I didn't publish my book till January 2023. But I was talking with Carter Cofield during the mastermind, and I said, "Hey, I had an idea. This ebook that you're telling us about, I was going to take the hyperlink and put it in my book, and that way, if people click on the link, they could, as aspiring business owners, learn about all the tax deductions they could get that could help them save money." Because Carter Cofield is a master CPA, certified public accountant, and he has his own company. He's very, very good at what he does. So I didn't even make that presentation to Carter with the anticipation that he would say, "Yeah, and if you do that, here's a kickback." But that's exactly what happened. He said, "Yeah, you know what? That's a great idea." This was in front of the whole class of like 8, 10 people, right off the cuff. And I was like, "Yeah, this is my idea. I could put your ebook in my book and direct people to your site to drive sales and help them save money on their taxes." He's like, "That's a great idea. For every sale that you do, I'm gonna give you $500 for every sale." And I was shocked because I wasn't expecting that. He was like, "Well, I was just planning to." He cut me off. He was like, $500 a sale. Put it in your book. And he went back to teaching the class. Again, I created a lane to make money, more money, just off of a partnership. Why? Because I opened my mouth with an idea. If you ask questions, if you make suggestions, you could end up going farther than you ever thought you would go. But if you keep your mouth closed, you already know what happens. Last couple examples. This one's more personal. I've been chasing my tail for a couple years with credit card debt. But after seeing the results with Nationwide Tax Care, I was like, well, let me hit up National Debt Relief. And I actually went back and forth with them in 2025. But the crazy part that I'm frustrated about, 2024 was my most profitable year ever in my life, right? I had my highest income grossing year ever in 2024. I made just over $19,000 in 2024. I have a video on my YouTube channel about that, and I show that, right? But here's the thing. I took $6,000 that month and put it to one credit card. If I had been smart, I would have taken that $6,000, started working with National Debt Relief, and that $6,000 would have paid off more than half of what I owe. Because listen, right now, not to put TMI out there, but I'm at like 17 grand that I owe for my debt, not including my student loans, right? And not including the car. But that $6,000 would have paid off more than half of what I owed at the time. And then I could have taken money throughout the rest of 2024 to close out the balance, because National Debt Relief told me that they could settle my $17,000 balance for like $11,500. So $6,000 is more than half of $11,500. If I had just known that at the time and applied it to that, I probably would be debt free right now. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know better at the time. But when you know better, you do better. So I started working with National Debt Relief last year. And I'm on my track to eliminate my car debt, hopefully by the end of 2026. That's what I'm aiming for, right? Because, the thing about the debt is I went in circles with this debt for years. And what good did it do? Paying late fees, paying interest. One of my cards, I got down to like $2,000 from like $8,000. But I never ended up paying it all. So again, if you ask the right questions, if you ask questions, period, you could be on a fast track to bettering your life. But you got to open your mouth and ask questions. And we're going to close with this example. And here's what I'm talking about, right? So yesterday, I have, all right, so I got this role that I'm doing. I'm a licensed property insurance adjuster, right? But I got this role that I started a couple months ago where I'm doing auto inspections, not even full auto appraisals because I'm not a fully licensed auto adjuster. I'm a fully licensed property adjuster, but I'm not a fully licensed auto adjuster. So I just do photos and scope only. So what does that mean? Car gets damaged, they file a claim, I go out and get pictures of the interior, exterior of the car. $65 a job, right? The pay is weekly. What you need to do is ask yourself, how many jobs do I need to do in a month, and then break that down by week in order to make at least $10,000 a month. Most people, I believe, unless you live in those extremely high cost states like New York, California, something like that, and within the high cost to live cities in those states like New York, Los Angeles, something like that, right? $10,000 a month, if you are just by yourself, is more than enough money to live on. As long as you're not blowing it on anything like really expensive car payments or ridiculously high rent, or, you know, keeping up with the Jones or anything like that, or child support, things of that nature, alimony, those kind of things that can really drain your account. As long as you're not doing those things, then $10,000 is enough to live off of. So I ran the math like a month ago, and I realized that at $65 a job, all I needed to do was 40 jobs a week, 40 inspections a week, and they're so easy. I get these inspections done in 5 to 6 minutes. 5 to 6 minutes per inspection once I get to the vehicle. And if I do 40 of those a week, and there's 4 weeks in a month, I make $10,400 for the month. Now you can support a family off $10,400. You know what I mean? A month. You could definitely support yourself off that, right? And the last inspection I did yesterday. Listen, y'all, I got a really good wife. I can't praise my wife enough for how amazing she is. She's always cooking for us. She's feminine. She's faithful. She's fit. She's attractive. So, from what I hear, there are a lot of guys out there who are going through bad situations with their wives, their significant others. And I hear about these stories, but I never heard one in person until yesterday. I never met this guy before. I didn't know him from a can of paint. I don't even really know how this came up, but he just started telling me, about his situation. He was cool. He was easy to talk to, so even though it was freezing cold, like 33 degrees outside, I'm standing outside with him and we're shooting stuff, just rapping. And he ends up telling me, his wife, he gave his wife $2,000 cash for Christmas. Bought all these electronics, paid a couple months of rent because they were falling behind, paid the car insurance, and his wife still don't want nothing to do with him, right? And he said a lot of times he comes home and, his wife doesn't cook. He got to end up cooking for everybody. And in my house, this is the complete opposite. I'm like, man, that's terrible. It just reminds me how good I have it. And so somehow, for some reason, I don't know what it was, he asked me like, yo, how did you end up doing what you're doing? That opened the floodgates. I just started telling him like, yo, actually, I'm not an auto appraiser. I'm a property insurance adjuster. I've been doing it 10 years. Last 5 years, I've always made 6 figures, 100K per year. This is the first year doing it. Hasn't felt like that, hasn't 100K didn't feel like 100K because of the cost of everything going up, right? But I said to him, I did the math, and I got this offer based on, the relationships that I have with the companies I've been with for years, right? So they offered me this. It's usually in my, my city, my area, and it's a fixed rate of $65 a job, right? You do the pictures, you go home, you type up like a 3-sentence report, you turn it in. It couldn't be easier. And of course he was hyped because most people are not making $10,000 a month. If you look at the statistics for 2023 and 2024, especially black men in America, they're not making at least $10,000 a month. You have the outliers, you have the millionaires, the ones that people aspire to be like Carter Cofield, in terms of income and perhaps character as well, right? But most people are just not making that. Most black men in America are making around 50-something thousand a year. And even if you're working for the city like that guy is, $24, $25 an hour, it just isn't hitting the way that it used to hit back pre-COVID. You know, 20 some dollars an hour doesn't hit the same. It doesn't go as far as it used to. It just doesn't, you know, because the cost of everything is so freaking high. Um, so I told him what I do. You know, I literally screenshotted the emails, which has the pay and the contact information. And I said, they're looking for people. And I gave it to them, you know, and I sent them a picture of my book on Amazon. And I said, look, man, check it out. It's a 90 some page book. Matter of fact, I'm going to show it to y'all. This is my book right here. I published in January 2023. It's called Break Into the Insurance Adjusting Profession Now. There's my author name, Andrew Enoch, right? And it is the comprehensive beginner's guide to entering the industry and achieving financial freedom, right? I put my entire heart and soul into that book. I'm very proud of it. It's got 2 5-star ratings on Amazon, and I've sold at least 50 copies. Not enough, but it's a start. This guy was extremely grateful. I mean, he was so grateful. He was like, look, man, you just changed my life. He was like, I've been depressed lately. You know, I think my wife's going to leave me. And, you know, you made a big, you know, you really helped me out. You have no idea how much you helped me out. Again, I didn't force this information on him. He opened his mouth. He asked the question. He was curious. And you know the funny thing about this? In my book, in the foreword to my book, and we're going to close with this. I actually have a dedication section. I say, the dedication to my book says this: to my wife, Sophia, the real hero, and my underlying source of support throughout this amazing journey. Thank you for your unyielding patience, because she has been hella patient, not just when I was writing the book, but also in the years where I go to bed late and she goes to bed alone because I'm up late working, or I'm always out working. Yes, it's a lot of work, you know, sometimes. I wrote, you know, to my 2 sons who have taken many long drives with me to and from work over the years. To the 3 wise men and Mike Michelson, and they know who they are. Without your encouragement, I may never have forged ahead into the unknown. Finally, to those like me, the ambitious, the information seekers, the self-doubters, the brave, and the bold, right? So if you don't seek information, your life may never improve. If that guy had not asked me yesterday, how do you do what you do? Listen, I would still have the work coming in. I had to turn off my availability like 2 days ago because they were sending me like 10 a day. I can't keep up. I have other responsibilities in my life, right? But he asked the question. I gave him the knowledge. He called the recruiter. And, you know, I wish him good luck and Godspeed, you know. But, again, that's the whole point about asking questions. If you don't open your mouth, you don't ask questions, you could be this close to your life changing. But because you didn't open your mouth, you didn't ask questions, you didn't get what you want. You had not because you asked not. So be better. Now that you know better, do better. I'm out of here, y'all. I wish you the best. 2026 is going to be a great year. I just know it for me, and it can be the same for you. Pick up a copy of my book, you know, if you're looking to change industries. I've been in my industry 10 years. It's stable, but I don't plan to be in it another 10 years. I want to use the money I make in this industry to get to the, you know, become a day trader, profitable day trader in the stock market. It's absolutely possible. I'm in a couple different communities, and they're just showing me mind-blowing things every month. Every month. It's unbelievable. So tap in, give me a follow, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.